Antron Singleton was born on September 15, 1973 in Texas. From a young age he had a gift for language, writing poetry and reading voraciously. But as hip-hop culture exploded in the 90s, Singleton transitioned from poet to rapper. He started out under the name G Spade, but due to his towering 6'7" frame, he was soon nicknamed Big Lurch, a reference to the character from the Addams Family. As his music career gained traction, he collaborated with artists like RBL Posse, Sibo and E40. But the deaths of Tupac and Biggie cast a shadow over the genre, creating instability in the industry. Then came Eminem, rapping about violence and trauma with unfiltered aggression. Singleton took inspiration and pivoted into horrorcore, a subgenre that blends rap with themes of horror, gore and violent fantasy. His lyrics became darker, often referencing serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer and infamous fictional characters like Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. At the time, fans called it artistic expression, but prosecutors would later argue it was something far more sinister. On September 16, 2000, just one day after his 27th birthday, Antron Singleton's life took a dramatic turn. He was involved in a devastating car crash with a drunk driver. The collision broke his neck and left him in constant excruciating pain. Doctors had to keep him heavily sedated during recovery, but after being discharged and still battling chronic pain, Singleton sought relief outside of hospitals. He turned to PCP. PCP, also known as angel dust, is notorious for causing severe hallucinations, delusions, and violent behavior. What started as an attempt to manage pain quickly spiraled into dependency. Singleton began using PCP regularly, often going on multi-day benders that left him in deeply disturbed mental states. In late April 2002, Singleton woke up in jail after a 2-week PCP-induced blackout. He claimed the last thing he remembered was feeling that the world was ending and believing he had to kill the devil to save it. But the reality of what happened was even more disturbing than his hallucinations. On April 10th, Singleton was at his Los Angeles apartment, partying and smoking PCP with friends, including roommates Thomas Moore, a known gang member, and 21-year-old Tanisha Yasmin Ysais. According to Moore, everyone eventually left the apartment except Singleton and Tanisha. What happened next is almost unspeakable. Under the influence of PCP, Singleton allegedly attacked Tanisha using a child's scooter, striking her in the head. Then he reportedly retrieved a knife, stabbed her in the chest and, according to the official account, cut open her torso, exposing her organs. One of her lungs was torn from her body. Bite marks were found on Tanisha's face and body. When a friend came to visit later that day, she found Tanisha's dismembered body on the floor. By then, Singleton had fled into the street, naked and covered in blood, still holding her lung. At trial, prosecutors used Singleton's own lyrics against him. His album, It's All Bad, contained songs referencing violent imagery and real-life murderers like Charles Manson and Jeffrey Dahmer. In the track, I Did It to You, he rapped about Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers, details that prosecutors argued reflected violent fantasies he wanted to act out. Singleton was found guilty of first-degree murder and aggravated mayhem. He was sentenced to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. But not everyone believed the full story. Tanisha's mother, Carolyn Stinson, has publicly stated she doesn't believe Singleton murdered her daughter. Instead, she believes Thomas Moore, Tanisha's boyfriend, was the real killer. Here's why. Tanisha had packed her bags that night, planning to leave Moore after he had reportedly been abusing her. Moore had a documented history of violence and gang affiliation. A bloody handprint found on the scooter used in the attack didn't match Singleton. Other bloody prints and footprints at the crime scene didn't match Singleton either. Further doubts arose from the trial itself. Singleton's lawyer, Milton Grimes, who also owned the record label that signed him, allegedly pushed an insanity defense, knowing California courts don't allow voluntary drug use to support that plea. Singleton later claimed his lawyer barely tried to investigate alternate suspects. Even more disturbing, bite marks on Tanisha's body reportedly didn't match Singleton's dental pattern, something that was never properly followed up in court. After his sentencing, Singleton's label released It's All Bad using an image of him holding a skull on a platter as the album cover, without his permission. They later dropped a documentary titled Drugs Made Me Do It, again without his involvement. Singleton claims he was deliberately given drugs to make him more volatile, something he says the label used to reinforce the horrorcore persona they were marketing. Tanisha's mother even filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the label, alleging they had a hand in the tragedy by supplying the drugs, but the case went nowhere. Today, Antron Big Lurch Singleton remains in prison, serving life without parole. He's now clean and spends much of his time studying law, possibly in hopes of one day filing for appeal or representing himself. Despite everything, he still writes music from behind bars. As for Tanisha, friends remember her as beautiful, vibrant, and resilient, a young mother of two, just 21 years old when her life was cut tragically short.